Hey there, how's it going? It's already April, and I'm sitting here just trying to figure out where March went. Like last month, here are some jams happening in April that I think are interesting. And if you're in the market to participate in a game jam anytime soon, some of these may work for you. As always, there are far too many jams happening that anyone can keep up with. So these are just some upcoming jams that I thought were interesting and I wanted to share. If there are other jams happening in April that I don't talk about but you're excited for, please leave them in the comments below so others can see. There are quite a few this month, so I may not be digging too deep on each of them, but there are links to every jam I mentioned in the description below, as well as a link to the main jam page on itch if you want to check out what else is happening yourself. So in no particular order, except I will put the jams starting sooner up front. Let's go. Starting off with one of the big ones that actually begins today, so if you want to take part, you need to get moving. Ludum Dare, or Dare, however you want to say it, is one of the OGs when it comes to game jams. It happens twice a year, and this one happens to be the 50th event. Running from April 1st through the 4th, Ludum Dare has two ways to compete, with a new third way to participate being added this time around. There's the Jam, in which teams or solo devs have 72 hours to make their game with the given theme. You're also allowed to use any assets that you have the legal rights to use. However, if you're a bit nuts, you can join me in the Compo, which requires you to work solo, gives you only 48 hours, and you must make everything for the game yourself, no using pre-existing assets. The third form added this time is the Extra category. You can work in a team or solo, and you have until the judging ends towards the end of the month to complete your game. This category is here for those that don't want the stress, but still would like to be able to complete a game so they can vote on other games in the jam. However, if you do enter your game in the Extra category while you're able to vote on other games, no one will be able to rate your game since it doesn't fall under the first two categories. If you're more of a minimalist or played a lot of retro video games, from April 1st through the 12th is the Black and White Jam, where the main challenge is to create a game that only uses two colors. It's a great challenge and really is amazing what you can do with only two colors to use. If you feel like the two-color restriction of the Black and White Jam is just a little bit too much for you, in the same vein with a shorter time frame is the Byte Jam number 2. Running from the 1st to the 4th, in the Byte Jam you get to use 3 colors for interactable objects, plus 1 more for the background. Good luck figuring out what you're going to do with all those extra colors you get. If you aren't into art restrictions as much because for you it's all about the code, you may be interested in the Floppy Disk Jam. Technically starting in March on the 31st, but running through April 8th, you need to make a game that can be optimized down to fit on a floppy disk. For those of you that are not as old as me, floppy disks are what we used to use to store things on, back before it was just considered the save icon. The Floppy Disk Jam has 3 categories for you to try to compress your game down under. There's 80 kilobytes or less, 256 kilobytes, or the massive 1.44 megabytes. Have fun and try out the challenge that past programmers just considered part of the process. The Weak Sauce Game Jam is designed for people with busy lives. The idea is that over the course of the month you can choose which 7 days you'd like to use to make your game. The days don't have to be consecutive, so you can make sure that it fits your schedule however you need. I've done this format for private jam competitions in the past, and it's great to be able to space out the work and still take care of life events without having to worry about losing time on your game. The Clicker Game Jam, running from April 2nd to the 9th. With no theme, the goal is to make an incremental game in a week. Incremental games are games like Cookie Clicker, Candy Box, Adventure Capitalist, etc. I will say this, incremental games are a lot trickier to make than you would think, but it is a really fun challenge if you've never tried to make one before. The same idea with a different genre is the Dungeon Crawler Jam, where you have from April 8th to the 15th to make a first-person grid-based game in the vein of Dungeon Master, Eye of the Beholder, Bard's Tale, etc. This truly is a classic type of game. How would you approach design with the early first-person restrictions? It's always suggested that for game jams, making a web build of your game is important because more people will be able to play it with less difficulty. The Gamedev.js Jam is all about that. Starting April 13th and running through the 26th, if you've only ever made games that need to be downloaded, this may give you a great reason to learn how to make something playable within the browser. From April 15th to the 25th is the 3rd annual Bullet Hell Jam. This jam sees you making a game with more projectiles than any reasonable person would think is a good idea, and then you gotta try to dodge them. Another 2 jams with similar ideas about helping the planet. First, the Eco Jam running from April 15th to the 22nd, where the goal is to make an environmentally friendly game leading up to Earth Day, which is happening on April 22nd this year. Similarly, starting on Earth Day, so running from April 22nd to May 1st, is the Climate Jam 2022, hosted by IndieCade, the IGDA Climate SIG, and Games for Our Future. Here, you'll be making a game that explores solutions to address a rapidly changing planet. I get asked quite a bit, what's a good jam to start with if you've never done a jam before, or if you're new to game dev? And I usually just tell people to pick one they think is interesting and go with that. But from April 18th to May 3rd, there's a jam specifically for those that have only been making games for less than a year. If you haven't been doing game dev that long, the Newbies jam may be just what you're looking for. This would be a great place to dip your toes into the world of game jams, even if you don't think you have the experience you need, because you'll be around others that are in a similar boat. And last but not least, we have the TIGERJ Jam, hosted by TIGERJ and 8-Bits to Infinity. 8-Bits to Infinity is a community that I run my game jams with, and their jams are always a good time. The guest host TIGERJ and the host of 8-Bits to Infinity, Retro Indie Josh, are streamers that play game jam games live, so this jam is a great opportunity to make a game and get it played with feedback from the hosts. You get 10 days to make your game, with the jam running from April 15th through the 25th. Your game must contain a tiger and use a limited color palette, which will be revealed at the start of the jam. And that's what I have for you for this month. Like I said at the beginning, there's no way for me to go through the list of all the jams that are happening. These were just a few that caught my eye and I wanted to pass along to those that may be interested. One thing to keep in mind is that sometimes jams are announced after the video for the month has been made, so be sure to check the jam page periodically to see if something new has been added. If there is a jam you think sounds fun that I missed, please leave it in the comments below so others can check it out. I'll have another one of these out next month, so be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can see it when it comes out. If you made a game jam game yourself and you would like feedback on it, I play community games every Saturday over at twitch.tv/Vimlark. Although if you're watching this on the first weekend of April, I won't be doing the feedback stream this weekend because I'll be working live on my Ludum Dare game if you'd like to come hang out and see it. Happy jamming everybody, and remember to keep your scope small. Thank you so much for watching. I'd like to give a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters, especially my video producer tier and higher patrons like Baron Earth, and Mark Games, Lauren Morgan, Nightfall, Matzi Makes, Nazar Salim, Pixelator Gadzi, Salty Pretzel, Scott Hansen, Soapy Gnome, Some Dude, Straight Up Gruntled, Warren Steven Rose, and Yanni Boy. You're all awesome people, and I cannot thank you enough for the continued support. I hope you enjoyed this look at jams happening in April, and I'll be sure to talk to you for the jams coming up in May. I'll talk to you next time. Have a good one. Later.